Good morning, everyone. Strifkel. We are playing some more Lufia 2 Ancient Cave, continuing our quest for the Iris treasures. We currently have 8 out of 10, and this time we are going in with all guns blazing. We are going with the traditional Ancient Cave party, and we're taking Zeppy because I haven't really used Zeppy much, and he's supposed to be one of the good endgame capsule monsters. So we're gonna try him out. If you're not familiar, Ancient Cave is a 100 floor randomly generated dungeon. You start at level 1 with no items outside of the blue chest treasures that you've gotten on previous runs. In this particular case, we have a bunch because we've been doing a lot of these back to back. The basic idea, like I said, there are among the randomly generated treasure in this dungeon, is a chance to find an item called one of the Iris treasures, and our goal with this run is to get as many of those as we can. Okay. Basically making sure our front line has as much defense as possible, and our back line has as much agility as possible. Specifically Artie. And with that in place, the first 20 or few floors are going to be trivial because we've got crazy blue chest items. We could go straight down the stairs, but at this point, we do want to open up all the red chests we can, make sure we're looking for blue chests. Especially early on, the first 10 floors, there's a chance to find different kinds of treasure. Not that we really need it for this particular section. Also, until we get healing, opening up every chest is particularly important because, as I frequently say during these, healing is a resource. A lot of this game, the Ancient Cave specifically, comes down to resource management. And you don't start with any healing, or you don't start with any healing spells, and you don't learn spells naturally. You have to find spells. So until we get some way to heal more consistently, we're stuck with 12 potions. the other side of that is, when you level up, you don't get, or your max hit points go up, but your current hit points do not. So, like right now, all of our characters are already looking like they're at low health. They're still at level 1 health, even though they're at level 3. Poison is good. The poison spell is a bit of a misnomer because it is actually the antidote spell. It removes poison. There's lots of translation errors in this game. Anyone who's familiar with it should not be surprised by this. Once again, just limited resources. Having a repeatable source of removing poison is better than being stuck only if you happen to get an antidote. Ideally, it's not going to come up anyway, but there's a chance, and if it does, it's good to get rid of. Poison does carry over between battles. I believe it's the only status condition that does. So during these first 10 floors, this is the only time when we're going to be able to find certain types of armor, because the game is bugged. Specifically, things like the hairband we just found. This is the only time where you can find helmets, the only time where you can find gloves and I believe rings and what is it called? Rings and jewels. We are taking a few extra fights here. As we go on, we're going to be avoiding most fights. I'm just taking a couple now to get a baseline going. It's not super important, especially with all the blue chest items that we've got. But it'll make things a little easier, at least. A little safer. may be a better way to put it. So one thing I hadn't really mentioned yet, one of the big pieces of Lufia 2's systems is the fact that the enemies move when you move. So there's actually a really neat degree of control you have over which fights you take, which fights you avoid, and whether you are able to get a surprise attack against the enemies, and or whether they get a surprise attack against you. Two deadly swords, okay. One deadly sword is good. That's actually beneficial. Deadly weapons are chance at instant death, and if you can remove the curse on them, they are what we call a fractional weapon. And that's how you don't want to, that's what you don't want to happen. That was me not paying attention. Hopefully we'll be able to avoid getting back attacked later. Fractional weapons are weapons that remove a percentage of your opponent's health. And this is beneficial because of the big boss of the ancient cave. The final floor of the ancient cave is a boss fight called the Master Jelly. The Master Jelly has 10,000 hit points, does not fight back, but you only have 3 rounds to kill him. And most of your characters in this game do 3-digit damage. So 3 rounds, 4 characters. It's challenging if you don't have the right gear, to say the least. Actually, it's impossible if you don't have the right gear, but yeah. It becomes trivial if you do. So there are basically 2 types of equipment that we're looking at collecting as we go. The first, as I said, are fractionals. If you have an item that does, in the case of the Deadly Sword, 1/6 of an enemy's hit points, that's very good against an enemy with 10,000 hit points to start with. The other one are finishers. So something that just does very high base damage, because fractionals are great, but eventually you're taking a percent of a percent, and they have diminishing returns. So you need a way to finish them off as well. That was probably a mistake, but I think we're okay. Yeah. Those are a lot of mimics. Technically, we can probably take these mimics, but I don't feel like it's worth the risk, especially if there are 4. That first fight, we got lucky because there were only 2. But they can hit fairly hard, and they can hit everyone in your party. We don't have any healing. Right now, there's a decent chance that they do 1 attack and just wipe our party. Which, I guess, at this point, let's just do just a little bit of healing to get in a safer space. So yeah, those are fractionals and finishers we're going to be looking for as we go. I'll probably be referring to them as we grab stuff. If we happen to get the right stuff, that will mean that I'm more likely to try and push for getting all the way to the jelly. But if I find an Iris treasure, that takes priority, because at this point, we've only got 2 left. The pool of items is fairly diluted, or when you find an Iris treasure, it removes it from the pool. So we started out with a 10 out of... how many 100 item? I'm assuming it's 255. 10 out of 255. 9 out of 255, technically, because one of the Iris treasures is for beating the jelly. And at this point, we're at 2. So our chances of finding an item are about a quarter of what they used to be. It means we're probably going to have to go deeper. Now, it is random. There's a chance that we just open one of these chests, find one, no problems. But the chances of that at this point are low. What floor are we on? Okay, 11. So 11 is where we can start finding red cores, which are an enemy type that are basically like metal slimes in Dragon Quest. They are very evasive. They tend to run away, but they give a lot of experience if you can kill one. At this point, we actually have enough levels that I'm not super in need of them. For those who speedrun the game, or race the Ancient Cave, that's the primary source of experience that they use. We're taking some other fights because I'm not as worried about going fast. But if we find them, we're going to try. Oh boy. Party room. So, this is our second party room. When there's a chance that a lot of the enemies and items all get shoved into one room. Hence, party room. This is honestly a good time for there to be a party room. It's low enough level that we should be able to just finish it off pretty easily. It's high enough level that we're getting a bunch of treasure. And those squares there are the cores that I just mentioned. 5 cores on in one room feels really good. Now, there's a good chance that all of these guys are going to run away. But if we can get to a situation where one of them stays like that, we get a good bump in experience. My goal for these floors would be to leave at at least level 9 after fighting the cores, so we're already above that. Cores are extremely weak to magic, so that is what we want to use. Wow. That's 4 cores total so far. We're up to level 15. Yeah. We are way ahead of the curve of where I would need to be for levels into a fairly safe zone for the next 20 floors. There's still a few enemies that can be dangerous, but overall, our goal, like I said, would be to be at level 9, and we're up to level, I think it was like, 16. The goal for, just as far as our safe levels go, would be to be at level 16 by floor 32. And we are above that already. So, yeah, that feels pretty good. Again, just feeling safe. I'll feel safer once we have, healing. But that's okay. Hey, Zeppy did something. Zeppy is our capsule monster. It's the fish over on the side. Capsule monsters are kind of a 5th party member that you cannot control. They're like a pet character. They are potentially powerful, but given that their actions are somewhat random, not actually always super useful. However, again, the final goal is to beat that boss in 3 turns, and one of the things we want to do is maximize our chances of getting of our capsule monster doing something useful during that time. That's actually useful. Fry is a good spell. Zap is a better spell. Those are both exclusive spells for Artie. They do holy element damage. Zap is the most powerful spell in the game. So if we're talking about finishers, Artie using Zap is definitely a viable option to add to his damage output. Also, just decent to have some of that holy elemental power. Just in case, there are several enemies that are vulnerable to it. There are several scary enemies that are vulnerable to it. So having it in your pocket is good. Probably upgrade Zeppy pretty soon here at the rate we're going as well. You evolve your capsule monster by feeding them the items you find. So eventually we're going to use that to clear our inventory. And it also obviously makes him stronger. For Zeppy, we just need to get him to form 3, which is there are 4 tiers, and then the 5th is a special master tier that is harder to get. And requires a unique item to evolve them. We're probably not going to be getting that, although we do have enough levels that we'd be a little safer. I'll say, if we can find good healing, blue chest item there. Title Jewel, which is not actually exciting. We already have several of those, I think. Yeah, honestly, we want Zeppy at 3 anyway, because it gets him a special ability called Energy Wave, I believe it is. Yeah, Energy Wave. Which boosts attack power on all of your allies. He has a very high chance of using that. And it is a very powerful ability. Because it makes all of your other characters stronger. Zeppy is also just a fairly high attack capsule monster. Okay, floor 18. There's a chance at this point for the next couple floors that we can find an enemy called Fighter Orcs. So I'm gonna go ahead and take fights against any orc type enemies that we get. So each enemy in Lufia moves uniquely. In this case, these scorpion enemies move perpendicular to you. So if I move up, they move right, etc. And that is, honestly, it's one of the easiest to manipulate and one of the ones I am worst at manipulating most of the time. I've accidentally back attacked myself with those so many times. Miracles are awesome. They are basically the elixir, full health, full magic, and they restore a character who has died, which is extremely important because we currently do not, again, limited resources. I think we only have a couple regain items. We don't really want to deal with these wingers. They're not super scary or anything. But again, healing, resource, etc. Even something that just does a little damage, like, yes, we're going to survive a fight against wingers, but if all of our characters take 10 damage during that fight, and we fight 3 of them, that's an entire potion lost on each character. We can be a little bit more cavalier once we get actual healing spells, but even then, MP is still a limited resource until we have unless we have a way to recover it. Right now, even if we got a healing spell, we have a couple X potions and high magics, or X magics and high magics, so we could recover some, but yeah, it's limited. Golem type enemies are annoying. We're not going to go up into that corner. I think those ones would be sand golems or gorums. And we're up to floor 21. Floor 21 is where we can get the Providence, which is how you exit the dungeon. Literally the first chest. Providence is important. We're pretty much guaranteed to find it, so it's not like it's, oh, well, we hope we find it. But it is important, because that's what lets us take things out of the dungeon. Now that we have Providence, if we find an Iris item, we can just leave. There's no reason to leave until we either find an Iris treasure or a blue chest item worth leaving for. Which, there's a whole one of those at this point. I mean, there's a couple very good ones, don't get me wrong. But I think at this point there's only one that would just make me abandon the run. And that's the Dakar Blade. Or the Gades Blade, rather. Dakar Blade is a red chest item, so you can't take it with you. Gades Blade is a blue chest item, and it is one of the best finishers that's available. It is straight up, its special ability is make 8 attacks. So you soften the boss up with the percentage-based damage, then you hit him 8 times, which is generally going to do something along in the 2,500 damage range. 2,500 to 3,000. Now, adding in things like that energy wave that I mentioned, which increases attack on all of your characters, that's why that's important. That's why that's so good. That's why Zeppi is awesome. The nice thing with the Gades Blade is once we get one, because we're doing consecutive runs like this instead of fresh runs every time, getting the Gades Blade would mean that we now have the Gades Blade for every run going forward. With those guys. That is a 4th C ring. I mean, the C ring is very good. So if we're gonna get stuck with a ring, I'm okay with that. It gives a +10 to agility, which is agility is probably one of the best stats. It means that you get to go before the enemies, which means they don't get to hit you. It also increases your chance of running away. C-Ring also increases magic defense. MGR is magic resistance, which is extremely important because it's the lowest stat and where a lot of our characters are the most vulnerable. Okay, let's bump Zeppy up to his second tier, which is Frog. I think that's all we're going to be able to feed him right now. The rest of these are our blue chest items, so we don't want to... If we feed those, they are gone forever. Second tier, he's still going to be able to do some serious damage. And it's still an increase from where he was. Curse Lifter is important. That means that we can equip a cursed item and be able to unequip it. Otherwise, you're stuck with it until you leave. Okay. I don't remember what Frog Song actually does. Fortunately, we need to go past these guys. That's potentially problematic. Bees are one of the worst enemy types to deal with. They are very fast, is the main thing. Some of them get to attack twice, and some of them have... By the way, this is what I was talking about earlier with the perpendicular movement. So if I move right, they move down. If I move down, they move left. If I move left, they move up. If I move up, they move right. So one of the tricks here is, if we just find a wall to walk against, we can push them out of the way effectively. I thought we didn't find the stairs yet. Did I find the stairs earlier and just totally forget about it? That's awful, because that means that we have to go past the bee again. And possibly snakes. You'll totally just space that off. Okay. It's almost as if we're looking at dozens of these floors, and they all look almost identical. Can't imagine why it'd be hard to remember which one's which. Can't believe that worked. Trick is a very good spell. That increases attack on your party members. Once again, great way to finish off that boss. Take 1 turn to cast Trick on the characters that are going to be attacking. Come on. Yeah, bees are really weird because they have this particularly erratic movement, which is awful. There's a chance they can move 2 squares at once, which is always scary. Because it means it's very difficult to avoid them, and because their movement is fairly random, it also means that you can't predict how they're going to move, which means they're very challenging to avoid. If you get into fights with them, they're very fast, so they tend to hit you before you run away. Yeah. They're not fun. They also have chances to paralyze or poison you, depending on which variety of bee. They have attacks that hit your whole party, potentially. Do I want to try and potentially get up to M class here? I don't think so. I don't feel like it's necessary, and I don't want to mess with it because we don't have any healing. The pugs, which are those weird chicken guys over there. The flaming chicken heads. Drop the item that we need to evolve Zeppy. But they are very fast. They use AoE fire attacks. And we don't have any healing, so I'm not going to worry about it for now. For now. Granted, by for now I mean at all, because once we're past these floors, they just don't show up anymore. Most enemies show up on about 3 floors, and then they're gone forever. Whereas Treasure has a starting point where it's introduced, and then continues showing up for any subsequent floors. You can see here my damage is definitely starting to taper off a little bit. We're not one-shotting everything all the time. And this is why that deadly sword is so important. It has a chance for instant kills. As we go on, we're relying less on the damage output that we can do, and more on getting instant kills on at least some of the enemies before they get to go. Ideally, we'd get a deadly rod for Artie. Oh, I thought it was... Okay. That was me misreading how that enemy moved. And getting very lucky that I didn't get back attacked. still not great. Avoid sea creatures. They tend to have attacks that either hit your whole party or multiple attacks. That's a blue mimic that I just about walked into. Blue mimics are terrifying compared to their red cousins. Red mimics are already powerful for where they're at. They're low enough level that we are not super worried because we've got all of our blue chest gear. That's gonna make this easier. Okay, I'm feeling a lot better now. This just became a real run. Stronger is extremely good. It's one of the mid-tier healing spells, but at this point we'll take it. Trying to get this back attack. And then I got surprise attacked, of course. That is awful. I'm not even gonna fight that. Nope. I don't usually think of the lions as super dangerous, so that caught me off guard a little bit. I'm definitely... It's a little odd, because normally I would feel like we're still in a relatively safe zone, and I feel like we're getting kind of squished right now. I guess the good news is we should be getting blue cores soon. Trolls are relatively safe, so just wanted to take the fights that I can, because, again, I'm feeling like we're getting squished a little bit. Now that we've got some healing magic, just being able to take a couple fights that are relatively safe feels good. We couldn't have finished both trolls off because it's in the other one's in the back row. The rows in this game are very subtle, but they do matter. Okay. Magic Bikini makes me laugh every time. Oh, Japan. I'd say never change, but sometimes I do want you to change. Okay, that gets us up to Tier 3, which is where we want to be. Energy Wave, Hail Attack, Iron Tray. This is where Zeppi is at his most powerful. So I mentioned the rows here. This lunar bear is in the front. Trolls, you can see, just kind of look at the base of the sprites or where the shadow is. The lunar bear's in front here, and the trolls are behind, so they would take reduced damage until we remove. Hey, remember that thing I was saying about how Energy Wave was really good? Holy crap, that's a lot of damage. I don't think we've got any blue core kills, unfortunately. he should be able to one-shot these guys. Yes. Okay, 35. I felt like we were deeper than that, and we're not. Honestly, we may be at a spot where we want to take our break soon. Garbusts are a pretty good enemy here that gives us a chance to get Berserk Blade's cursed. And has very high attack. We want to sell it right away just to make sure we don't accidentally equip it. Not that it's as big of a concern with all of our blue chest items. But yeah, Garbusts have a chance to drop a Cancer Rock, which gives you basically a double attack. Again, not the best finisher, but it's a finisher. We don't really have much in that vein yet. And especially with Trick and Zeppy, we have a very high chance of getting lots of damage increases that can then chain into that double attack and make each of those attacks, like, Energy Wave is good. Energy Wave, when you're attacking twice, is twice as good. You're getting more benefit out of it, basically. When you only have 3 rounds, being able to use those buffs more efficiently is good. Another Crystal Shield. Okay, I think we're going to... Oh no. Well, 37s are assassins, not ninjas at least. These guys are very fast and fairly powerful. The real scary part is that they have a movement of 2, So it makes them very likely to get back attacks on you. And they get to go first. Okay. So far so good. That's what we were worried about. They have that instant kill attack, which, again, with resource management, that is a regain or a miracle down the drain. And you have to rebuild your IP meter. You have to heal back up after using the regain. Yeah. That's an assassin we're gonna avoid for now. Unfortunately, that is the end of the Garbosts. So I guess let's finish this off just so we're out of assassin territory, so I don't start the game up and forget where we were. Okay. One more floor to get to safety. Not that it's... I mean, honestly, the further you go, the more there are just awful enemies around. Now, each time I enter a room at this point, I'm pausing at least briefly, because there is a chance that assassins will just rush across the map at me. Pumpkin Jewel is good. Pumpkin Jewel does double damage, so that's not quite as good as 2 attacks, but is still good. Unfortunately, it does look like we need to fight this guy. Awesome. That should do it. Okay, so we're gonna end right here. Oh. After fighting these armor dates, apparently. I don't want to fight them, by the way. They get 2 attacks each, and they hit relatively hard. Or can, at least. There we go. Okay. Floor 40 seems like a good place to take our break. Hopefully you're still enjoying. If you are, please give me a like and subscribe. Check out the other content on my channel. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments. And as always, have a good one. We'll catch you next time.